Hi, and welcome to the Diablo podcast brought to you by PureDiablo.com, your home for an expansive Diablo community, an ever growing wiki, and this podcast. Today, I'm joined by Neinball
Oh, hi.
and noted streamer and whale nerdward.
Hello.
It's good every time for me.
Every time.
Uh, So I thought we'd get together and we would chat quick about today's news. We got the developers showing up and talking about Diablo 4. We got the chance to purchase our collector's editions. We got a little view of the battle pass and a little more insight on the Codex of Power system, which Neinball, having experienced it, can highlight. But let's get to the nitty gritty. We all got out our credit cards and we swiped them pretty quick for a grand total of 96.66, and then shipping. It's less impressive when you add the shipping in, but 96.66. What are your thoughts on the collector's edition? Are you happy with it? We're all buying it, but I mean, I'm talking too much. What are your thoughts, guys?
Is a huge fan. We talked about it previous episodes, right? That I was going to pretty much put down for whatever it was anyways. I do think that there's a like other game series typically do like bigger action figures or statues with their collector's editions, which are really cool. And man, I'd love for Blizzard to do that because I just know they would kill that. They do such great collectibles and great items like that. But they haven't done that typically in the past, so I didn't expect it necessarily with this time. That's just kind of like a wish list, bucket list thing for me. I'd love to get something like that. But yeah, definitely cool. Really cool. Definitely excited about the different items in it. There's a pretty good mixture of things. And then I feel like no matter what decor, what your house looks like, or what you collect or don't collect, if you're a big Diablo fan, there's kind of something you can use in that for almost everybody. Yeah, your vast array of art behind you.
I have so much more room now, so
Right, right.
Nineball had
Yeah,
no room, whereas I
yeah,
can really do whatever I want. Um,
yeah.
Nineball, are you gonna buy?
Yeah, I mean, I already bought it. I was sitting there at the last like 10 minutes of the developer screen on my phone at work, like just minimized up in the corner while just refreshing the gear store,
Yep.
to make sure that it didn't go live early, as things like this want to do. It's like, oh yeah, as soon as the stream's over at 3 o'clock, we'll go through and we'll post it, and then it actually went live at like 2:45, and you missed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, no, overall, it's definitely a step up. So it's like, just as Nerdwords was saying, like, we've got like the collector's editions and stuff like that we've gotten in the past that have normally been somewhere between like $80 to $100. And it's usually just art book, mouse pad, and some other like little like pins or coasters or something like that, but nothing really
Yeah.
big. The only other time that they've ever done anything big like that was Overwatch, which came with the
Yeah.
statue of Soldier 76 or
Which I have,
67.
and I don't play
Yeah.
Overwatch. But I
Um,
have that statue because
it's
it's awesome.
yeah, it's not on camera right now, but my Overwatch
Also,
box is
yeah,
sitting right
it's a
there.
great, it's a
Yeah,
great statue. Yeah,
yeah. And that one was $200 as
yeah,
opposed to like the max of 100 that a lot of their previous collector's edition ones had been. If
yeah,
you put this plus the game, like the Ultimate Edition, then you're at $200. And so to kind of like go and compare it at that point to like the Overwatch collector's box, you're getting a lot out of it. Maybe not something as like big and tangible as the soldier statue, but the candle was pretty cool. I was a little bit disappointed to learn that it's actually like it's a lamp. It's an electric lamp as opposed to like a real candle. Um, but I guess it's kind of fitting so that way they can properly sculpt it and all other types of stuff. I wasn't expecting to get an actual like piece of pewter in there, but it's got a lot of fun things. I am happy that they're going bigger with this one because it's Diablo 4. We need to have something big and memorable, and the box is cool as hell, and we got a cloth map, which is always amazing.
So that's really funny because I didn't actually know that about the candle until just now. I thought it was a real candle, and actually I was kind of bummed that it was a real candle because I couldn't really use it because you can only ever use it once, and then it's gonna never be there again.
Yeah,
But with it being not that, that means I can like have the little cool light on however that works. That's cool.
Yeah.
I'm actually kind of excited about that. Okay.
Yeah, no, they talked about it like on like literally on the stream. It was like because they did like the whole beginning was like a little. What was it? What was one of my favorite takes? Was bloodshed commenting that it was like QVC.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Uh,
Yeah, I'd seen that as well. I mean, and in some ways it is. You do want to hype your new product. You want to get people to purchase it, though I imagine most of the people who are going to tune in on a Thursday midday stream for Diablo 4 developers are the diehards who are going to purchase it anyway. Um,
oh yeah.
the one thing that surprised me, I guess, like from the Diablo 3 collectors, having just one thing for like in-game denotation that you had the collector's edition. Those fancier wings or some sort of armor or something like that. Not that I need that, but I want it. And I
Define
need
needs, Xanth.
I think people need to know that we bought this. And I think that's it. Like oh, that guy was just rolling around Sanctuary right now. Oh yeah, he is a collector, right?
There goes the druid, notable whale Xanth.
And we don't know because he's always in bear form. So that's it.
Just imagine a bear using the wings emote.
There you go.
Marius's wings coming out of the bear's back. I wonder how that works. Do you shape
Good.
shift back into a human when you use emotes?
Just for the emotes, yeah.
Yeah.
I
You need to test that as soon as you possibly can, Xanth.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I'll do all the the grunt work that literally nobody has done because well, nobody's playing Druid. Nobody's playing Druid enough to even leak footage. Like what do I get? Get nothing. Um, which
Tough.
again, I do
Tough.
think is because it's too awesome. People are intimidated, and that's
One way to
natural.
look at it.
That's natural. So collector's edition, we're all buying it. It's
Bought it. Past
yeah,
tense.
yes, but
Yeah.
it's it's exciting. It's exciting to like be at this stage. And I do you brought it up weeks ago as we were speculating, but the concept of having the two different purchases, I thought I would be a little bit more apprehensive, but now like knowing I will have the game on day one, right? I will have that ready to go. I'm not waiting for my collector's edition to show up so that I can install it. I just have it, right? And then when
Yeah.
that shows up, I can just display it, not here, but somewhere. And I'm good to go. So I am excited for that kind of combination.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the reasons, like one of the main pools for doing it this way and having them as separate entities that you can do that way. I think it's really cool too, and it's again, it just makes more sense because there might be people out there that don't really want to buy Diablo 4, but think this is really freaking cool because it is. I mean, the setup's really awesome. I'm actually really excited about the mouse pad. I mean, I don't think I've needed to use a mouse pad in a long, long, long time. I mean, mice have evolved to a point where most desktops are just fine, but I still do because that's what I do. And I usually use Blizzard ones. This one is really cool. I really like the art on it. I think it's really interesting, and it's definitely different from what they've done in previous ones. Because usually it's like key art or something you
Yeah.
see from the box cover, things like that. This is like its own thing. It's really cool. Very evil. Makes me happy.
No, I mean, also, I think I was also a bit taken aback, by that whole thing, and of course, the people that will always hold on to something and try to be negative about it are all like, "Did you know that the collector's edition didn't come with the game?" Yeah, it actually states that, like, fucking in the news article, come up with something new. It's
Right.
like, I almost missed,
Right.
I almost missed the "Do you have a phone" joke.
Well, and there's the
Uh,
clickbait articles too, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
and so it's just like one of those ones where it's like the response is actually like pretty um more like positive than a lot more positive than negative, because there's been some people that's like, oh, I it's like normally that type of stuff would be locked behind, like you could only get like those emotes and stuff like that in the collector's edition, and I want to get it for both console and PC. So that way, like, I can play with my kid, or I can play with my spouse, or I can just play on the go, so I don't have to take my computer with me. It's a lot easier just like I like throw the PS4, when I'm traveling across country to go and visit like the in-laws or something like that. And it's like that all makes a lot of sense. You can just get that one collector's edition. You've got that box, and then the emotes and other things like that are all just like kind of like tied to the game key, so you're not having to
Yep.
buy like two collector's editions, type thing. I guess it's because it's all like cross platform now. Wouldn't even really matter so much. You just need the key to unlock it on the console. But yeah, no, I mean it's something that I've seen that a lot of people are like, I don't care about like the emotes or anything like that, so I'm just gonna buy the standard version of the game. So I'm actually saving like $30 because it would have been like the $200 price point if they put the game together with the Ultimate Edition in the collectors.
I had no qualms purchasing just because due to the tattoo event, got the Ultimate Edition for free. Uh, well, free-ish, right?
Oh, so this is your way of tipping the developers.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like I we had discovered about the Hell's Inc. event being the Ultimate Edition after we'd finished up the podcast last time, and at no point did I ever expect that it would be anything outside of base, right? Like, hey, you get a free copy of the game, thanks for showing up, and getting a tattoo. But the fact that they pushed it to Ultimate, and it's small, right? It's a small little thing, but I thought it was really cool. Like, hey, why not? We'll give you the best one that we can push out. So I do appreciate that. And yeah, I'll toss the hundred some bucks your way for the collectors I was gonna do it anyway, right?
Hmm.
Nice little bonus. Now, speaking of giving them money, right? We did get at least a little bit about the battle pass system, and really the cost, right? $10 every season. Um, And I think that's jarring at first, right? For anybody who's mainly just focused on Diablo, right? If you've just been playing Diablo and this is your series, and you've never really had to pay outside of box before for Diablo, maybe that's jarring, right? I'm not taken aback by it. I've shared before, I've played a lot of Path of Exile, and while there is no charge there, they have an option like a battle pass. I've spent about that per league anyway. Like
Sure.
if anything more. If that $10, in tandem with having some different unlocks, maybe comes with some points in the shop for cosmetics. Yeah, that's like a no-brainer for me. I'd like more details about it, but it doesn't seem like something I wouldn't buy in on. What are your thoughts on the Battle Pass, guys?
Well, I mean, it's not required. I mean, so like I I wouldn't understand like it being jarring, I guess. I mean, let's put it this way, I guess. If you're listening to a Diablo podcast in 2023, chances are you play a lot of Diablo, I would imagine. And if you've never spent anything but $60 for the game and you've gotten all this time out of it, guys, there's this thing called inflation, right? And games should honestly probably be more expensive than they are anyways, but because the market reacts to things like that, this is their way of meeting that. If the content is good, then that's awesome. It's all cosmetic stuff. If you don't want that, then don't buy it. You can still play the season, you just don't get that stuff. So I don't see how it should be jarring for almost anybody. That said, it's also $10 if it's really that big a deal. This is not required for you to eat, sleep, live, or breathe. So maybe put that in perspective too. It's all entertainment, right? Like we go to the movies and spend more than $10, and that's for a night. Like this is
Well,
it,
maybe
we.
you do.
Well, that's fair. I do. I love the movies still, and I know
I
that
mean,
you.
I do as well. I just don't
No,
pay anything.
obviously,
Well, yeah.
right.
Yeah.
You just don't pay for
Just
that. There
pointing
was a
that one out.
time in my life, just not anymore, unfortunately. But no, I just think that you really, what are you paying for? You're paying for cosmetic stuff. You're paying to support a company or an IP of a game series that you, again, if you're here with us, you obviously love. It's $10. It's $10, and that goes directly into the development, the team, and everything that goes on with the Diablo franchise, and allows them to continue to give us content, which is really, really cool. And it's not required to enjoy the season. It's just to get those extra cosmetics, those extra things through as you travel through the pass anyway. It sounds like it's pretty much win-win for everybody. So hopefully not super jarring.
Yeah, I mean it's like one of those ones. It's $10 every, and they even commented again on the stream. We had talked about it a little bit on the previous podcast, and you probably have seen it, going around the interwebs and such. Is in the presser, they told us that the seasons are going to be 3 months, and then again on the stream,
Yep.
they reiterated that seasons are going to be 3 months, and the battle pass will last the entire season. And so it's $10 every 3 months. It's $40 a year. It's not a lot.
Right.
Especially if we're going through and we're getting regular content, updates and other things like that every 3 months to go and play. Less than an MMO subscription, is not bad, especially if we're paying $10 and we're getting full cosmetics, from the battle pass and stuff, where we're getting a whole bunch of different things to go customize a character with. And then there's also, they still haven't answered the question like outright, but something that, Nerdwords, you had mentioned in the past, that most like modern games will give you enough premium currency during the battle pass to then
Yep.
buy the next battle pass. So
Yeah.
you get the next season pass and such, or you can use it to buy, one of the other premium skins or something like that if you so choose. But otherwise, you just it might not even cost you $40 a year. It might cost you $10 a year
And
until
yeah,
you find an actual one, some sort of premium skin or some other thing that you really really dig, and you go and you grab it. And one of the other important things. So now this was so it wasn't the exact question that I had asked, but it was like one of the questions that I had sent over to the developers was, what is the intended amount of gameplay? How deep do we have to go into the season to complete that battle pass? Because it is one of those ones where you start getting into like some of the FOMO issues and such.
right.
Where do I have to play every single day during the entire season to go through and get this, capped out, so I'm getting my full $10 worth or what have you?
Yeah.
Because at that point, it's not even that you're trying to get you're not trying to get $10 worth. You're trying to get the money I spent. I'm trying to get the that worth out of. So it no longer matters really how much you spent on it. They said it's going to be around like 75 hours. So they intend, and they are managing kind of like the seasonal journey and the battle pass total experience wise, that to max it out is only going to take like 75 hours over the course of an entire season,
It's
which,
not bad.
no, I mean, most like, blasters are going to knock that out in days,
Yeah.
in order to go through and
Well,
get, and even more casual players are still going to accomplish that like in a couple of weeks.
yeah. Well, as someone like I've played, I mentioned this before in a previous podcast, but I play Apex Legends, not heavily, but I play it. I'm also not good, so there's that. But as someone who is not good, and will spend like I probably won't play it for a few weeks, and then I'll jump in and play like every night for a couple hours, like through the week, maybe a little bit more on the weekend, things like that, and then I won't play for a few weeks. As someone who does that, those battle passes can take some time. I mean, like depending on when you start, because a lot of them are gated behind time locks. But even if you just like start at the end of the season and able to grind everything out that you want to grind out, I mean, it's going to take a lot more than that to cap it out. And again, you do earn that currency back, which is really good too. But yeah, I mean, it's really hard to say, obviously, until we have the full idea of what is in the past, step by step, all the way through it, right? But I just think the price is very reasonable and very on par for the rest of the market. And again, not required to play the game, not required to enjoy it. And if someone else, like Xanth, you talked about the yucking the yum, right? Like it's that exact thing, right? Like at that point, it's really just your preference, and some people just want to have outrage. I get that to a certain degree too. You gotta let it out sometime, but I don't think it's that big of a deal, and I don't think it's going to affect the game, right? Now, if it affects gameplay, right, if there was a pay-to-win element, which there isn't, not that I've experienced or seen, and they've been very clear on that messaging, we
Yep.
should be safe. We should be safe. If you feel like you have to buy it, then that's a little less cool. But again, I'm still of the opinion that games should be more expensive anyways. Again, it's 2023 and paying 60. We paid more for Super Nintendo games. They were more expensive, right? Like it's compared to the average $59.99 or even $69.99 game now. Yeah, it feels like that's the way the market needs to go, as literally the rest of the world has inflated and that market has not.
Yeah.
So this wasn't an ad, Blizzard, but if you send us robes, we could do more of this. No, in all seriousness, it's not being a shill. I think it is recognizing, yeah, that the market has changed a lot since Diablo 3, since Diablo 2, and it's not it's not a bad thing. And
ten
it
dollars
doesn't
doesn't
hurt
go far,
anybody.
period. Right, $10 doesn't go far, period. Apologies, but if you get just 75 hours out of that battle pass, and that's it, that's a lot of hours of entertainment for $10, right? I feel like it is. Again, going to the movies is far more expensive than $10, and that's literally a few hours. There's several things that you go do and spend money on it, or limited experiences. I've played Diablo heavily since 98, 99, and I feel like it's okay, like it's not that big a deal. Um, and I just, I really like hope that, the world, because this is something that happens with every game, right? I feel like that is the biggest far cry on the internet, is the complaint about DLC content and all of that and the cost of these things. And yes, there's absolutely money grabs out there, but guys, it's no surprise to any of us that these have always been corporations that make video games, that produce these things. They're a for-profit organization, and if you enjoy that entertainment lane, don't be afraid to spend a little bit of money for it. You know?
Yeah. I
And
mean, at the end of the day, as you said, it's just cosmetics.
Yeah.
It's yeah. They reiterated, at least a couple more times during this stream, that there's no pay to win, there's no paid power. The only thing that could even be close to paid power is the experience boosts that you get along the battle pass track. That's on the free track that everybody gets, and even though someone can pay to unlock it early, it will only unlock. It is level gated.
Yep.
And so it doesn't. And also they said that it's kind of like those points are kind of like, also should be, you'll be completing steps of the seasonal journey that will give you the experience to fill out the battle pass, that will get you to those points that will then unlock naturally as you reach that level, versus just paying to get there and then having to wait, and then you would have gotten all that experience to unlock it anyway. So it's almost kind of like you're paying money for nothing, unless you're just trying to rush through and get all the cosmetics unlocked at the very end of the season, like a day before it ends or something like that.
Yeah.
so as we talk about unlocking things, just transition. Um, we have learned a little bit, and they did touch on the Codex of Power, right? Uh, Unlocking legendary abilities to kind of go and place around on different items. Now, it's really cool to hear about, to see a few stills, eh, and nothing against the Joes, right? Uh, but they're trying to tell us about the game, and they're hyped about it, but we haven't played it. And this is a completely new system. Uh, so Nineball, you have played with Codex Power. Um, how does it work? How does it feel? And does it seem to fit well within the realm of Diablo?
So when we talked on the last podcast, there was like some gaps. Like I didn't know answers for sure, and they've now answered that in the developer stream, where it's a small select few legendary powers. I mean, it's a ton, but it's not. It's a small amount of legendaries in the grand scheme of things. There's a bunch for individual classes. There's a bunch of generic ones that can be used for all classes. And it's just kind of like ways to go through and get you started. You want to start a brand new sorceress. Well, here's a whole bunch of things that you unlock while playing through your druid or your barbarian. So that way you kind of have at least like a little bit of a starting point, and such. And that it is like the minimum power that it goes through and it takes from. The only thing that you have to do is you have to go through and complete, all 120 plus dungeons that exist inside the game, because every single one of those dungeons will have a Codex of Power entry tied to it that it will go and unlock. So it will take some grinding in order to go through and do to get everything. And but once you have it completed, then it's really, I mean, it's one of those ones where it sounds incredibly alt friendly, for if you want to go through and you want to do additional playthroughs on additional characters and get them started. It sounds like it's a great kind of safety net for hardcore characters, because it will at least give you a little bit of a power boost when you're going through and restarting. Um, when you're going through and restarting a character, because there is like the stash and you can save like gear and stuff like that. But this one then also kind of like acts. It's not quite like Kanai's Cube, because you don't just instantly go through and equip the power and it's there. You still have to find a rare or legendary to go and put that affix into, and it is at the minimum power that it could. So if it's something that gives you a 20 to 100% power boost, it's only going to give you 20 every time. So you're still in. It's a great safety net, but you still have to go out if you really want to make your build.
Find the gear.
Work. Yeah, you have to find the gear. Because like if it's in that again, that's like gives you like the 20 to 100% increased damage. Since it's only going to ever be the 20. Like literally, if you go out and find a piece of gear that's 21%, it's better.
Yeah, yeah, and so it is in a way like Kanai's Cube, but if you could like take the Kanai's Cube powers and just put them on pieces of your gear rather than have them passively on, right? That's what it sounds like.
Pretty much. You go to the occultist. They had a little bit of the how it looks in the stream itself. That you walk up to the occultist. You go to the imbue tab up at the top. You put in the item that you want to imbue, and then there's two options that you can either slot in a legendary aspect. Legendary aspect is the power that you've extracted out of another legendary, that you can then go through and put in. It is a one-time use, so you want to use it wisely. And then the other side of it is the Codex of Power, which when you click that, it gives you the menu of all of your unlocked powers. You can just pick the one that you want and then imbue it into your item.
And you said I'm gonna die, right? I know that's gonna happen, and I'm not. I should preface. Well, I'm gonna die in real life. Like that's a fact, and we're all mortal. Um, a little
Until we
memento
got real
mori,
on this
right,
show,
right in the
yeah.
middle of the podcast, right? Everybody's gonna die. Okay. In the game, playing hardcore, I'm gonna die. I know what's gonna happen. But to the best of my understanding, I roll up that new level 1 druid, I'm going to be able to go and craft some new fancy stuff again and not have as much of a burden of death. Is that correct?
Yeah. So like yes and no. You're not just gonna go through and be at like level 1 and start going and uh using the Codex of Power. Because it still does require, you can't imbue common or magic items. It has to be rare. So you have to have rare items, and then when you're going through and you're crafting stuff at the blacksmith, um, it has a random chance at of what like gear it is that you're making, or at least that's what it. Now I'm trying to remember, because I barely crafted anything, because I ended up using all my materials and stuff like that to like upgrade my gear more so than actually crafting stuff. Um, I can't remember now whether actually you could craft a yellow at specific levels, or if you were like crafting a two-handed weapon, and it would had a random chance at being magic or rare.
So, this is just good information too then. So typically you're not finding rares, right off the bat. When would you say you started finding rares that you would then be able to jump in and use this system?
I mean, you could get rares like in the intro dungeon in the prologue. You got like one or two rares or something like that out of all of like your gear slots. But you might not necessarily want that like a fix in that position, or to like fully deck yourself out I think I didn't actually get like fully equipped in rares probably until I was like 15 or 20, and then you're a couple of hours in. Yeah, I'm sure that you can min max that one a little bit more, especially if you're playing like in an adventure mode as opposed to the campaign, to just like target farm places in order to get gear, or you might have a whole bunch of like lower level yellows in your stash, just stored for when you might inevitably have to reroll.
And it will be inevitable. Um, it's just going to happen.
Do you hear
So,
that, Mr. Anderson?
so I think, I can see two camps forming on this, that there legendaries or uniques, and I know uniques are a different thing too, but like look, non, all right, we'll just say legendaries. Um, legendary items have like their specialness taken away, perhaps, by being able to be passed to different items. Now, I'm not necessarily in this camp, but finding a great, let's use the grandfather, right? And at least they alluded to the fact that this may not be the case because it might be a unique. But from
Oh, they can. I mean, they pretty much confirmed it was a unique.
Yeah. Well,
and
and
this is
I
where it
think
gets
it's
confusing.
more. See, I think it's more like we have to shift our perspective of legendaries than that, right? Like
Yeah.
we're used to the legendaries in D3, right? We're used to the unique items in D2, and there's unique items in D4. So that said, I think that these are more like vessels for powers than actual like uniques, right? Like that's what it feels like.
Yeah.
Like that really a legendary is really
Well,
more an affix, right? And like it depending on kind of how you see it.
yeah. That I
If you
mean
can
that's
extract them.
entirely it. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
entirely how
so
you should look at
because
it.
I mean, just thinking about this with like a Diablo brain, right? Because we've played Diablo for 20 years, like you're really gonna chase that god rare, right? That trifecta, that like perfectly rolled, stat rare, and throw that badass power on it. And you could use the codex to facilitate until you get better powers extracted, but those one-time use legendary powers you pull out are really going to be the bread and butter of what makes your build, right? You find that god
Yeah.
rare because like finding the
I mean,
god rare or the
it
god roll with that affix is
yeah,
going to be the challenge.
it's a two-part farm because you've got to find, and also it's not necessarily that you want to find a god rare. You still want to find a god legendary.
Yeah, right,
Maybe not necessarily, but legend. The only difference between a legendary and a rare is that a legendary has an extra affix on it. It's got
right.
the 5 affixes as opposed to the 4, I think it was.
But when
And
you
so
but when you add the affix from the codex, or not from the codex, but from
the
your
legendary power is
aspects,
something different. Legendary power is
really,
something different.
okay,
Yeah, it's
interesting,
completely different.
interesting. Okay,
The legendary ability is not the 5th affix. The legendary ability is the legendary ability. And
got it.
so yeah, you can find like rares that have like those good rolls on it and such. You might not have a 5th affix. You might not even care about the 4th affix on particular types of pieces of gear.
Sure,
As we see in like Diablo 3, where it's just kind of like
right,
I guess armor maybe. Who
right.
cares? You
Yeah,
know, um,
yeah,
so and it also we it's only like level 25, so we don't even have like everything unlocked with what you can go through
right,
and do and imbue and all those types of stuff. There might be other affixes and stuff like that we'd have access to, or how things tie together. But it did seem that like that there's at least a lot more depth there than like the Diablo 3 system on it.
yeah,
And so you not only want to find like a really good piece of gear, whether it is a rare or another legendary, because you can change out the property on a legendary. You can imbue it and override the legendary property. But if you extract it, you kill the item. So you do have to be
got it.
careful of what you go through and do. But then once you find like that god item, or maybe the reverse happens, you still have to find the god roll. You
Right,
know,
right,
because
yeah,
again, you've got that item that's like increases your damage by 20%, increases your damage by 100%. This is a made up item; it doesn't actually exist. Please don't. It's not.
right,
I'm just
right, right,
just
right.
as an example.
We're
But
speculating here. Yeah,
speculating, but yeah, it's like, well, I found this god item, so maybe this 85% damage roll is worth putting into it, while I hunt trying to find the 100% damage roll. And that's
right.
like a little bit of it. But they did say, and they specifically used the term chase items in the live stream today. It was also a term that they had used in like the press interview that we had, that they have uniques that exist in the game, like the grandfather, Shago, Mage Fists, things like that. Those are going through, coming back. They're going to be inside the game. They'll be uniques, and so those ones are not mutable. They come with like fixed affixes with unique powers that you can only find on that. You can't extract, you can't imbue. If you want that particular type of ability, you have to use that unique. And then at the higher, the thing that they didn't quite elaborate on too much in the developer interview, that they did talk about in the press interview, is that those really powerful ones are locked behind the game's hardest difficulty, and they will be chase items, and so it will be something that you will go and try to farm and find. And so while legendaries, will be relatively easy to find, there won't be any rare legendaries. It's a, kind of like a flat drop chance of all of the affixes across the various item slots that you go through and find. But the uniques is kind of like what they're more focused on, of having that feel of like a grail or a chase item, for
Yeah.
that deeper kind of like mechanic of what keeps you going in and playing. Because as we've seen in Diablo 3, spending a million bounty mats to try and re-roll, 48% crit damage to 50% crit damage really isn't super engaging,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Don't hate it. I think the ability to not be stuck on gear pieces, like to be looking just more for the powers that could go in different slots, seems exciting to me. I think we've all had uh, those certain items that we just can't find, that, hours of farming, days of farming, and it just does not show up. And if I could find a lesser version of it through a dungeon, if I could find, um, a way to kind of toss it onto a helm because it's not as good as my weapon, or whatever it might be. um, I don't know, that I feel like that shifts things up a little bit. It also makes it seem like your build doesn't have to just be like you need this weapon, you need this helm, you need this, but more of like, hey, here are the ideal power sets that you want to find, and then divvy them up where you can, and maybe you want to spice in some other things because it doesn't have to be just this rigid itemization that will only
Mhm.
make this build work.
I do hope that the system is like somewhat limited. Because that's like one of the things in Diablo Immortal, that if you have like a specific build and you're using specific skills, you can't fill every single item slot in your character with a legendary that works on like the primary skill that you're using, whether it's your primary attack, or like command golem or raise skeletons or something like that. And so you're kind of like forced to diversify with what you're going through and using, which is nice, because whether it means that you have to use a utility skill, or you're breaking up, like some of like your damage, and so that you're playing a summoner build, and well, you've got to use some form of like direct damage, because you just can't fill every single piece of gear with something that buffs your skeletons or your golem or something like that. And so, well, take this thing for like blood wave, or something that will help you do something. I'm not coming up with examples right now, but yeah, I wouldn't mind it if there is like a way that you have like 13 item slots, and you can only fill like 10 of them with like your damage abilities, and so you're kind of like almost forced into like some utility, just to help break up and differentiate what your build is going to be,
Yeah, I
instead
really
of
think it,
literally just instead of literally just stacking every single piece of gear with plus damage to skeletons, plus damage to skeletons, plus
right.
damage to skeletons.
Plus the cold damage, minus enemy cold resist,
Yeah,
and plus the frozen orb. That's
yeah.
it, right? Just one track mind. No, yeah, I think
Bear
that.
form,
I mean,
bear form, bear
yeah.
form, bear
Please,
form.
Okay,
ticks,
Jesus.
mites.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, all
and
those
it,
things.
and it all sounds like a good time. Uh,
yeah.
Yeah, I
Who
think that. I
who
mean, look, we
who
talked about it
doesn't
before.
want rabies when you're playing a druid? I mean,
Oh, I mean, definitely not the Diablo 2 Rabies Druid, because it's still bad. It's still bad. I'm sorry. It's forced. But anyways, I think that like I said before, it's a very different game. You know, it's a different take on the Diablo world. It's a different take on the loot system. It sounds interesting. I'm definitely interested by it. I'm really excited to get my hands on it to try it out some. Um, you know, the item chase is what keeps you playing Diablo. It's always been that way. Diablo 1, you know, you beat the game and then it's like, okay, now I just want to look badass, right? Now I just want to get all that cool stuff. Diablo 2, it's about getting the god build and the god rolls and everything you possibly can and trying to push to 99 if you're really insane. Diablo 3, it's perfecting gear, and re-rolling and perfecting gear, right? It's just all that. So, you know,
Yeah.
with Diablo 4, it's kind of a mixture of a lot of different elements from previous Diablo games. I'm really curious how it'll play. Again, the gameplay loop is what keeps us all here, right? So if it's fun and engaging and interesting, then I think we'll be happy. I just want to get my damn hands on it. When's beta? Give me the
Yeah,
beta dates.
I think that's a good closing question of like, you know, there was a decent amount of build up to today, you know, you get the game director, you get the system director, assistant producer, um, and you're like, okay, uh, maybe we're gonna get just a little bit more, and I don't think we learned as much as what I kind of had hoped. Um, when you found out about this, was there something that you were hoping you were going to hear about today? Neinball?
I mean, like the preview blog itself had just said that they were going to go through and they were going to talk about the Codex of Power. Obviously it's not something. So there's Adam Pez Radar had post on Twitter going through and soliciting for feedback. And I think like one of the most common ones was just it's like if you're going to do a live stream, take advantage of the format that you're going through and doing. Namely asking chat for questions instead of going through and everything, kind of like pre-selected, actually sourcing chat. Because otherwise, it's like, then there's not really any difference between pre-recording it and putting it on YouTube versus actually having the live stream.
Yeah.
But then there's also some other ones where it's just like, you should talk about gameplay more. It should all be gameplay. Like, obviously they had just announced the collector's edition. And so it was an opportunity to go through and like show it off, show the contents. Because there were a bunch of questions. Is there one candle? Is there two candles? And collectors like us, were happy to go through and actually see it fully unveiled. And then they showed off the trailer. They talked about like the lore and the story, and it's like I know some comments were like no one cares about lore or anything like that. Gameplay footage does not cause people's jaws to drop.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
The trailer did. That trailer
yeah,
was sick.
that trailer did.
That trailer did.
Narrative, yeah, narrative builds hype. Narrative,
Yeah.
honestly, like really is good at building hype, and not just narrative, but music and art are just equal
And
aspects of
Tyrael's
almost. This
wings.
is like Tyrael's wings, Tyrael's wings, Tyrael's wings. Thank you, Rush. But it's just this is kind of like spoilers because even though we recorded the episode with Brandy last night, this is getting posted before that comes out. But she was going through and talking about like the importance of art, narrative, music, and other things like that. That it's all equal developments and going through and making the game, and should be out there at the forefront because you can talk for gameplay and systems for 75 minutes in a 60-minute time segment, and people will still ask for more. I mean, did I want to hear more about gameplay and the systems? Yes, of course I wanted to, but I at least still appreciated them going through and taking the time to talk on some of the the other aspects of the game and such, because you're literally never going to be able to fulfill what people wanted in terms of answering questions, especially for something that still hasn't gone gold yet.
Well, and I think too, yeah, I think there's good and bad in the live stream. One, there was literally no point in live streaming it. They could have just recorded that as a video, right? I do love the idea, the effort. I love them kind of setting the setting for where they're going to have future live streams, and they'll likely have Q&As as a part of those, right? Like I think this is also very much a dry run on starting this process with the Diablo community and the Diablo team. So, I think that that's good. I did feel very similarly that it was very QVC to start. It was cute, right? Because you could tell there was excitement, right? The team to have their hands on it, right? Which was adorable.
And they
Which was
had good
awesome.
chemistry amongst themselves as
No,
well.
they
It
did.
really worked. Yeah,
and Adam is a really likable guy. Like I'm instantly like excited for the future interviews and things like that they're gonna do. But this was very much a commercial for the collector's edition. Like there's no doubt about it, right? Like that's literally what it was. The Codex of Power was really cool, and we did get some good information on that and some good stuff there. and again, overall, I've really enjoyed the open conversation they've had with, like the IGN trailers that went on for fucking 3 years. So like all of that, like, I'm genuinely like we've always had access to the Diablo team really since Diablo 3, like really good access to that team. They've done a good job at being public and really having, great community managers lead that and have those conversations and really kind of guide it. But I'm liking the direction it's going in. It was absolutely a commercial, and that's fine. Take my money. They did. Accidentally twice, but they did.
Yeah.
My girlfriend bought me one too. I'm trying to figure it out. But
All
anyways,
right, now you're getting like braggy, like, oh, I got two collectors and a person who
all
loves
right,
me so much.
it's true.
Like, we
It's
want
true.
to be
Yeah.
relatable, okay? We
It's
need to be
fair. That's fair.
relatable.
I didn't want to run the risk of it selling out, right? You never know how it goes. So,
Yeah.
but no, I think it's really cool. I do want to see what they do with it in the future. I think there's a lot of potential for these live streams to be really cool and really insightful. There's a whole lot of room for stuff for them to do there, and all of it just means more Diablo stuff, right? Which is really cool and really exciting for me as someone who's been obsessed with this for a long time. And I loved hearing like Joe talk a bit about the story and really about Anarius and Lilith and the whole creation and all that. Because
Mhm.
obviously we've talked about it. I love that part of it, but they're also,
Yep.
you can tell that they're in the middle of this collector's edition, commercial and the gameplay, all the Codex of Power stuff. They inserted this, which is basically, in my mind, um, it's not an accident, right? They always plan out what they're going to talk about. There's talking points and all that, and so that means that there's an intent to get the community invested in the story, which also implies that there will be more and more story, which is cool, right? I think that's cool because I've been there for 20 years of my life, and more people to talk lore with, and they do get excited about the story, I think is awesome. If you don't love it, that's cool too, because I have friends who didn't care about the story about Diablo ever, and they still, texted me, "Oh my God, this trailer is ridiculous," So again, to the art and music
Mhm.
part of it too. So overall, it's a lot of fun. I'm really excited to see what they do in the future with it, and I think there's a lot of potential. And yeah, Adam's a great host.
Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, I think we've come to the end here, so let's end as we always do with a moo, moo, moo.
Moo moo moo.
Moo.